On this episode of Lapeef Let's Talk,
right? That
That's
means
correct. There's no truly Chaldean-owned businesses.
right, but we won't have that conversation.
Why
will
won't we? I
still
just
say,
said it.
because Anton, what you have to understand, and what I would honestly ask you to accept, bro, is that your perspective, when you talk about I'm open to the possibility of being wrong, this is one of those moments where you got to accept that, bro.
Okay, tell me where I'm wrong.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because we would never have the conversation whether Chaldeans source their materials from here, there, or neverwhere. We would still recognize that as an Arab
Why
business
wouldn't I?
issue.
No, y'all
You,
would. Because I understand how business works.
Anton,
I look at it completely
I
differently.
hear you, Anton, and I don't, bro. I have in these year in the last year, I've completely come to understand you.
I want to know what you think of this, Anton, as far as companies who are non-black owned, but they use like black, black pride. Like as far as beauty products, a lot of those companies are owned by non-black people, but they use black names to, I think, patronize black customers. You know what I'm saying? Like they use
Like what? Give me an example.
like beauty products. They're like African pride and black this and black that. So do you think
I
that
don't go into a beauty supply store. I wouldn't know anything about that business.
But I do, I do. So I know, a lot of beauty products, they use black. A lot of the products, I was surprised when I looked up black products and found out that most of the companies are owned by non-black people. So do you think that they're using that to benefit from the black culture and they're not owned by black, and they're not black owned?
I have no idea whatsoever. But let me ask you a question now that I don't have any idea, right? So let me ask you a question for clarification. Are these black owned products being sold in stores that's not black owned? Are they utilizing a network of stores in order to increase how much money they're making?
The majority of the products are sold in companies that are not black owned.
Okay, so that's my point. Listen, first of all, if we really want to get down to it, there is no such thing as black owned. You may own your company, but what about the products you source in order to support that company? Right? You may own a restaurant, but what about the supplier for the chicken? What about the electricity that you pay for? What about the landlord that you pay? Right? There's no such thing as anything owned because you don't know who owns anything. And the only way it can truly be any black owned is if you're getting it all the way from the source, and then you can be able to support your argument or your narrative that way. So it's a false narrative for somebody to advertise something as black owned because you're still supporting a bunch of other companies and businesses that you don't know who owns it. So it's just a marketing shtick. It doesn't even mean anything. It's not even real. It's silly to even think that we having this conversation as though something is truly that when it's not. Just because we want to market it that way does not necessarily mean that we understand the business principles behind how things are sourced and whose hands the money is really going in. So if you really want to market yourself as black owned, first really be black owned, because you're really not. Even if your products are sold in other stores, the Walmarts or whatever, if you get some shelf space, let's be clear, the majority of your profit is going to somebody else. It's not going to you.
Hey, can I interject real fast? Oh, my bad. Oh, my bad. Q. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to add a little something. Because we're not thinking of business aspect of things. Like for me, if I see, like, for instance, Turkey Leg Hut is black owned, and they're very known in Houston. It's a very popular place to go. So when I think of a business highlighting their black owned, I don't think from my standpoint, for me, like a regular person, I'm not thinking, oh, they're alienating themselves from different races, because when I pass by there's lines of people of different races, Mexicans, whites, and everything of that nature. But as I think Kayla was saying, it really just depends on what product you're selling, because when it says black owned, of course, I'm interested to see, I want to invest into it, or let me see what it's looking like, the market and stuff like that. But I don't think it's just alienation.
Wait. Wait,
Good afternoon
Is he
to
all
you
right?
too, boo-boo.
You all right over there, Rilla?
Hello.
yeah,
Welcome to join us, sir.
Wait, hold on.
Island was giving her.
I know.
Yeah. Rilla, hold tight,
I
Rilla.
was on mute.
Yo,
I'm
Rilla.
sorry.
Nah,
I was
hold
trying
tight,
to
Rilla.
hear what she was trying to say.
Listen,
What just happened there?
I apologize. I'm sorry, Q. Q,
Rilla
you
was
know
like,
I love
hopped
you.
up out the bed, turned
Q.
my swag on.
No, Q. You know I love you. I was literally running because
Oh, that's what y'all
partially
the breath.
to Anton's point, I was dealing with a situation with a non-black entity, and I'm running into this conversation because I'm listening to my superior, but I'm also running into this conversation because, yo, Anton, I'm listening to you, bro, and I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about Burn Rubber. Thinking about Burn Rubber in Detroit. Shout out to Roe. Shout out to Rick Williams.
What does that mean? Can you please define what burn
It's a
rubber is?
couple different
Hold on.
dudes that own a shop called Burn
Oh.
Rubber, and they homeboys of mine.
Nope.
Gotcha.
Anton, give them their props. Don't. It's not a couple of homeboys that own the shop.
They my homeboys, is what I'm saying.
They are your homeboys.
So what are you talking about? They own a sneaker shop, and they do collaborations with a lot of different people like Puma and stuff like that.
Anton, I'm not coming with
Rilla,
smoke.
what point are you making? I'm trying to understand what you're talking
Hold on
about.
1 second.
You did come in like
What
Debo.
about Q?
You
He
came
was
in
out of
like
breath.
Debo on cue.
Rilla was out of breath running. He said,
But go ahead,
"Whoa."
Rilla, do your thing.
Nah, listen, I'm not coming for you like that, bro. But I'm saying if we're gonna talk about Rick Williams, we're gonna talk about Roe. And I could bring up for a fact. I can
And you can talk about Anton because I really opened up businesses in real life too. So
facts. And so when you speak about these businesses, and I hear you saying ultimately there are no black-owned businesses, then that means when I go into Dearborn, there are no Chaldean-owned businesses, right?
that's correct. There's no truly Chaldean-owned businesses.
Right, but we won't have that conversation.
Why won't we? I just said it.
Because Anton, what you have to understand, and what I would honestly ask you to accept, bro, is that your perspective, when you talk about I'm open to the possibility of being wrong, this is one of those moments where you got to accept that, bro.
Okay, tell me where I'm wrong.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because we would never have the conversation whether Chaldeans source their materials from here, there, or neverwhere. We would still recognize that as an Arab
Why
business
wouldn't I?
issue.
No, y'all would, because I understand how
no,
business
no,
works.
Anton,
I look at it completely
I
differently.
hear you, Anton, and I don't, bro. I have in the last year, I've completely come to understand you.